What's up? Welcome to the Plus Pitch Podcast, your morning starting pitching podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and today is August 14th. Let's break down every single start from August 13th. We'll start it off with Payton Tolle, and when I hear the name Payton Tolle, the first thing that comes to my mind is obviously a young left-handed starting pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. A close second, though, is one of my favorite new age spiritual philosophers, Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart has written multiple books and recorded hundreds of podcasts. Welcome to the club, all centered around bringing yourself into the present moment to find the peace within you. Indirectly, whenever Payton pitches, I forget my ego, I enter into the here and now and become at ease, knowing that everything happens for a reason. By separating my awareness from my thoughts and feelings, I realize that I am so much more than the story I tell myself about who I am. I am not my personality. Philosophy aside, though, Payton Tolle has not only imparted peace upon those who see the link between him and a spiritual mentor, but he's also given fantasy managers peace of mind with consistently elite performances across his first full major league season. Tolle continued his success in Toronto on Thursday via 8 shutout innings, allowing just 2 hits and 2 walks while striking out 4. It wasn't Tolle's most dominant performance per se, as he induced single-digit whiffs for just the 6th time in 20 starts this year, but it was the longest shutout performance of his career. Tolle's attack is led by an elite four-seamer, his signature pitch that dominates upstairs at 96 plus miles per hour with elite extension. He's at 7.4 feet on the season and a flat attack angle. He's got 1.5 Hava on the season with the four-seamer. The fastball has moments when it's absolutely untouchable and others like Thursday when it churns outs on balls in play. He supports it with a sinker and cutter that complete Tolle's Raz pack. The cutter is more of a slider at 88 to 90 miles per hour with 6 to 7 inches of IVB and 3 inches of induced horizontal break, though it was more cutter-like on Thursday, and that's likely due to the indoor stadium at Rogers Center, which gave the slider more lift. The cutter, though, is the difference maker as it provides the support the four-seamer needs, both when it's not at its best command or stuff-wise, and when batters are hunting it and looking for that fastball and getting hits off of it. Predictability has been my biggest concern with Tolle all year. He's quelled those concerns recently by expanding his arsenal in the second half, cutting back on four-seamers by 7% to get it down to 42% usage, and adding 4% usage to his cutter to get it up to 22%. It propelled a career-high 14 strikeouts last time out and assisted in his Koufax aided success on Thursday. The real undercover superhero for Tolle has been his curveball, which has seen a 4% uptick since the All-Star break, equal to the increased usage to the cutter at 82 to 84 miles per hour. The curveball creates a huge velocity difference that constantly catches batters off guard. It's not commanded super well. We want to see that pitch land low in the zone, but with an arsenal leading 42% CSW this year, the curveball is clearly a pitch that's tough to handle. It's an addition that clearly parallels Yankees rival Cam Schlittler, who also employs an elite Raz pack that has enlisted the assistance of a hook. And I think it makes sense for these high velocity guys with a trio of fastball variants to throw in this surprise slow pitch that they have the ability to get in the zone constantly. It forces batters to not only respect that pitch, but to stay away from the fastball. They can't just only focus on the fastball, because then these high velocity guys will flip in curveballs at will. With the foundational elite four-seamer leading the charge, flanked by a solid sinker, an X-factor cutter, and a secret weapon curveball, Tolle has the weapons to dominate any lineup. With a sub-3 ERA and a 28% strikeout rate through 20 starts this season, he's established himself as one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, and as long as his innings aren't limited down the stretch, Tolle's going to force us to consider scheduling his coronation day before the end of the year. Now let's see how every other starting pitcher did on Thursday, starting with Cade Cavalli, who helped the Nationals to win against the Cubs, tossing 8 shutout innings, allowing just 1 hit and 2 walks while striking out 10. And what a start from Cavalli. He was throwing 1 to 2 ticks harder across the board, meaning his signature curveball was like a hungry shark with a nasty bite to it at a season high 87.8 miles per hour. in its average velocity. That's insane from a curveball that it's almost at 90 miles per hour. It allowed Cavalli to survive 6 2/3 no-hit frames before a blooper fell in front of the left fielder, leading to a round of applause from the home crowd in our nation's capital. With all no-hit bids, a little help from Koufax is required. Cavalli returned 13 outs on 14 balls in play here, and he needed incredible efficiency in 2-strike counts with a 71% put away rate to rack up double-digit strikeouts for the 4th time this season. And we're not expecting Cavalli to be perfect every game. So even with the good fortune here, we can look at that increased velo that he's held for most of the year and be confident that he'll continue to build on the 3.23 ERA and 27% strikeout rate that he's posted across his past 21 starts. The schedule only gets easier for Cade Cavalli as he heads to Texas against the Rangers next before getting Rocky Road and then the Marlins to close out the month of August. And all we got to say is let's ride. Next, we have Cater Montero versus the Guardians. 6 1/3 shutout innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, no strikeouts. Montero is like Indiana Jones with his ability to master a whip. That's a sub-1 whip through 26 outings, encompassing 128 2/3 frames from Montero, despite a heavy reliance on balls in play, evidenced by a sub-17% strikeout rate this year. Rarely do pitchers sending so many balls in play have such success at limiting hits. Think of guys like Clay Holmes, Kevin Gausman, and Framber Valdez, guys who get plenty of ground balls but struggle to return low whips because they rely so much on the defense behind them, and they rely so much on the fluctuations of BABIP. Montero's been lucky to return a sub-7 hits per 9 this year, which is a mark typically reserved for the best starters in baseball. It's easy to point to Montero's unsustainable 225 BABIP this year and write the whole thing off, but Montero is not like those heavy ground ball pitchers. Instead, he gets a bunch of weakly hit pop-ups and fly balls with an innate ability to keep the ball in the yard. On top of that, Montero keeps the base paths clear with a sub 6% walk rate. So when he does give up a home run, it doesn't really hurt him, and that limits the other half of the whip equation. On Thursday, Montero needed a bit of help from Koufax, but he gave us a win, a quality start, and nearly 7 innings of pristine ratios. But most of us will see that big fat 0 in the strikeout column and complain about the dryness of our bread. How am I supposed to butter my bread with just 0 strikeouts? But you got to be happy with Montero's production if you have held onto him in deeper leagues this year. With 4+ runs in 2 of his past 4 starts, though, the cracks have started to show for Montero, and it's difficult to put my faith in a guy with such a clear lack of swing and miss. Just 2 whiffs from Montero on Thursday, but he's proven to be a reliable streamer against bottom half offenses. Next, we have Logan Gilbert in the Bronx. 6 shutout innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. An ace is going to ace for a gallows pull as Gilbert led baseball with 15 whiffs on Thursday. With an extra 1 to 2 ticks of velocity to sport his highest velocity of the season, Gilbert's four-seamer overwhelmed batters in the zone as it lived in the zone 63% of the time and earned 80% strikes. Splitters and sliders were commanded beautifully downstairs, combining for 10 whiffs and 5 punch-outs. With the second furthest extension at 7.6 feet in the league, I'm pretty sure he trails only Jacob Misiorowski. Gilbert is nearly invincible when he's sitting 97 to 98 miles per hour and touching 99. That just puts into context how ridiculous Misiorowski's 104 mile per hour fastball with nearly 8 feet of extension is. But enough about him. Logan Gilbert is an absolute ace. Next, we have Walbert Urania versus the Rangers. 6 shutout innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. A mini blip last time out didn't shrink our confidence in Urania as he's still throwing 98+ mile per hour fastballs with elite 92 mile per hour changeups and an emerging sweeper at 88+ miles per hour. The extra velocity hides the poor shape of his fastballs, allowing him to get away with mistakes in the zone stemming from his unspectacular command, allowing him to set up his changeup to dominate downstairs. Urania was a little more reliant on batted ball luck on Thursday than we typically like to see, as he induced just 1 whiff with his slow ball, but with his heavy, high velocity stuff, producing 56% ground balls and 56% weak contact, Urania had no problem shutting out the Rangers for 6 frames. We're going to keep rolling with him moving forward. Next, we have Braxton Ashcraft in Miami. 9 innings, 1 earned, 3 hits, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts. Way to silence the doubters. Ashcraft has been missing one of his breakers or and or struggling against left-handed batters for the better part of the last 2 months, calling into question the outlook of his breakout 2026 campaign. But he put those questions to rest with an efficient masterpiece on Thursday, pitching all 9 frames on just 85 pitches while racking up double-digit strikeouts for just the third time this year on his way to the King Cole, as Ashcraft led baseball with that 41% CSW he had on Thursday. That Pitcher List award is no small feat given how deep he pitched into this one, but it speaks to his ability to trust his stuff in the zone against a passive and struggling Marlins offense. Just 10 whiffs, but he had plenty of called strikes here. You don't really want to rely on called strikes, but the fact that Ashcraft filled up the zone with his amazing stuff is sort of what we want to see, because batters are not going to be able to touch his incredible breakers. And as long as his fastballs avoid damage, he's gonna do great. Let's hope that this is the end of Ashcraft's rough patch and that he carries over this dominance when he hosts the Tigers next week. Complete games can sometimes leave a pitcher gassed in his next start, but Ashcraft's low pitch count here means he should have no limits next time out. Next, we have Max Fried versus the Mariners. 5 innings, 1 earned, 5 hits, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Is this enough to earn Fried his ace is going to ace tag? I'll leave that up to Nick. But this wasn't really dominant. But to be fair, that's not a word that I typically use to describe Max Fried. He's never been a high strikeout arm, nor has he ever been somebody who throws gas. He's about as elite as a Holly gets, though, putting him in the same conversation as Yoshinobu Yamamoto this year, somebody who has elite ratios, but doesn't strike out a lot of guys. Typically around like 24%, which is what we've seen from Yamamoto this year, and I think from Fried in the past couple of years. He won't blow your socks off, but he will consistently pitch deep into games, setting himself up for wins and a positively outsized impact on your ratios because of that volume. There should not be any hesitation about starting Fried in Baltimore next. Next, we'll talk about Max Scherzer, Aaron Nola, Roki Sasaki, and the rest of the guys who pitched on Thursday. But first, we're going to take a quick break here on the Plus Pitch podcast. Next, we've got Max Scherzer versus the Red Sox. 5 innings, 1 earned, 3 hits, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. And the legend continues. Scherzer looked completely cooked this year, but that's now 4 straight starts with 2 runs or fewer. I guess I can't really give him that first one. That first start was just 2 2/3 innings, and it wasn't pretty, but the last 3 have been great. Not vintage Scherzer or anything, but enough to warrant considering him as a streamer in deep leagues. The most important thing at this point is that Scherzer does enough to keep the Blue Jays from looking foolish for allowing him to chase 9th place on the all-time strikeouts leaderboard. With now 3,520 strikeouts under his belt, Scherzer's just 14 shy of tying Gaylord Perry for 9th place on the all-time strikeouts leaderboard. We're all rooting for you, Mad Max. Next, we have Aaron Nola in Minnesota. 5 innings, 1 earned, 5 hits, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. And this actually was not in Minnesota. This was at the Field of Dreams. And Nola must be a fan of Kevin Costner, because he took to the Field of Dreams and broke out his best curveball to tie his season high with 9 strikeouts. The hook was dotted beautifully low in glove side, inducing 11 whiffs and 39% CSW, mixing with sinkers and changeups below the zone. 4-seamers filled up the zone, with the odd cutter popping in to say hello. And if Nola could just throw only curveballs and changeups, I'd be thrilled. But I also think that probably wouldn't work. His heaters are just too susceptible to damage due to their volatile command and volatile velocity, making Nola too untrustworthy to roster in standard leagues. And maybe now's a good time to mention his stats from his recent starts. It's a 4 ERA and a 27% strikeout rate across his last 8 starts, which is great. That's been since the beginning of July. But I don't really like that, because it comes with a 1.38 whip and the constant threat of a blow up. I think Nola is totally fine to roster and start pretty much every time out there in 15-team leagues, but in standard leagues, it's just too risky, especially with that whip at 1.38, even when he's at his best. Next, we have Roki Sasaki versus the Brewers, and I wrote a little song parody over on the SP Roundup, so go check that out if you're a fan of Stevie Wonder. He is one of my favorite artists, but Sasaki lost the feel for his secondaries here against the Brewers. 6 innings, 2 earned, 4 hits, 5 walks, and 2 strikeouts, as he returned just 46% strikes on his secondaries. And that was enough to force Sasaki's fastball into a corner in 3 ball counts, leading to 5 walks. Now Sasaki heads to Coors before heading to Hotlanta. And I think in standard leagues, we need to take a break from him until September. in my home league, I dropped Sasaki, and you know me, if you've been listening to me all year, you know that I've been a huge proponent of Sasaki's, and that's big coming from me as one of the biggest Dodgers haters around. So if I'm telling you to drop Sasaki, then you should probably listen. I think his stuff is great. I think he's taken huge steps forward this year, but it's not worth rostering him after he showed such terrible command and with two really difficult matchups up next. Now we have Parker Messick in Detroit, 5 2/3 innings, 2 earned, 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Messick at 95 plus miles per hour with great changeup command is exactly what we want to see. So why was this start so disappointing? There were too many four seamers that flew well above the zone. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that line of four seamers well above the zone, and that led to 53% strikes on the four seamer. We also saw changeups that fell a little bit too far below the zone, failing to induce chases and leading to an even worse 44% strike rate. It made for inefficiency as Messick struggled to put batters away, throwing 39 pitches in 2 strike counts, leading to 102 pitches through 5 2/3 innings and the hook before he could finish the 6 to qualify for that quality start. That's been an issue we've seen pop up from time to time for Messick, but if that's the worst thing you can say about a guy, I think he's doing pretty darn well. It's smooth sailing ahead with the Giants and then heading to LA against the Angels and then hosting the Royals to close out the month. So we just keep starting Messick without questioning it. Next, we have Jacob deGrom in LA against the Angels. 2 innings, 2 earned, 6 hits, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. And deGrom left this one with triceps fatigue, leaving us holding our breath in the hopes that it's not something more serious. Baseball's better with healthy aces, and it's always concerning anytime you get injuries that are remotely close to the elbow, and a tricep is connected right to the elbow. And I would not be surprised if deGrom heads to the IL, but I have my fingers crossed that that does not happen, because I would love to see him finish a second season healthy. Next, we have Shane Drohan in LA against the Dodgers, 5 1/3 innings, 3 earned, 3 hits, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts, and handed a tough matchup in Hollywood. Drohan did all he could to make courageous fantasy managers proud. He gave you a dusty donut as he fell apart in the 6th, walking the final 2 batters he faced and watching both score on a home run after he was pulled from the game. Careful Icarus there. His Blake Snell blueprint approach isn't very inspiring, but it's been decently successful this year. I'd say go ahead and stream Drohan when he hosts Seattle next week, but don't feel the need to hold on to him too tightly. He's not somebody that has displayed a ceiling that's worth chasing consistently, and I feel like the rest of the league is catching up to his approach. Next, we have Davis Martin versus the Reds. 2 innings, 3 earned, 2 hits, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. Come on, Davis. I know you've had a frustrating stretch of starts since your impressive early season run, but you can't be headhunting a guy just because he hit a home run off you. Martin was ejected in the 3rd frame after he threw 2 pitches up and into Sal Stewart, the second of which hit him in the helmet. And after the young slugger took him deep in the 1st, so it seemed like it was retaliation. Martin is now likely to face a 5-game suspension, and this was not a good look. Next, we have Tyler Phillips versus the Pirates. 5 1/3 innings, 4 earned, 6 hits, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. And Phillips just does not have the command or stuff to take down left-handed batters consistently. That being said, this was a weird one where a leadoff triple in the 5th scored on a balk. While Phillips was mulling that balk over in his head, he lost focus and served up a meatball to the next batter and watched it sail over the wall. Then in the 6th inning, a pair of 1-out singles sent him to the showers, where he watched both inherited runners come around to score for a careful Icarus. Phillips is a fine play in NL-only leagues. He's been decent this year. He hasn't pitched deep into games, though I'd really love to see him recover the tick of velo and 2 to 3 ticks of extension he lost in this one, because if that sticks around, it's going to be difficult to suggest that his stuff is good enough to lead to even mediocre success moving forward. And he's somebody who needs to be giving it his all right now. He's not guaranteed a spot in the rotation in 2027. So this is a real important audition pair of months for Tyler Phillips. Second to last, we have Andrew Abbott on the south side of Chicago. 4 1/3 innings, 5 earned, 7 hits, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And it's time to replace the batteries. We need AA batteries for Andrew Abbott. He's been on a downward trajectory recently as he's failed to display the above average command that allows him to outpitch his underlying metrics and the expectations of pitching analysts everywhere. The secondary support was lacking on Thursday as they returned just 54% strikes, leading to four-seamers getting pummeled for 4 hits or avoiding punishment with 3 walks. The upside was never really worth chasing with Abbott. He was somebody that we were looking to give us a win, a quality start, and some pretty decent ratios. And now that the ratios aren't putting smiles on our faces, it's time to let him go. In 5 second half starts, Andrew Abbott has a 4.18 ERA, a 1.43 WHIP, and a sub 2% strikeout minus walk rate. And you never want to ignore the strikeout minus walk profits. You also never want to speak in absolutes. Lastly, we have Taj Bradley, I guess second to last. We have Taj Bradley versus the Phillies. 4 innings, 5 earned, 7 hits, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And maybe Bradley's never seen Field of Dreams, and maybe StatCast has never seen Bradley pitch because for some reason it labeled his splitters as sinkers. Bradley is well known for throwing a splitter, and whatever. We, in our hearts, know what Taj Bradley throws. We're looking for Bradley to throw harder and find 60% plus strikes on each of his main trio of pitches, the 4-seamer, splitter, and cutter. And we got neither of those in this one. His velocity was slightly down, not like noticeable enough, not anything to get us concerned, but more importantly, 4-seamers returned 64% strikes, but splitters and cutters earned 53% and 35% strikes respectively. Bradley has failed to check those 2 requirements in each of his last 3 starts, leading to a 6.60 ERA, a 1.93 WHIP, and a sub 3% strikeout minus walk rate, lending credence to the assertion that his control is the source of his powers. It's up to you, but it gets tricky now with Hotlanta and Sacre Verde up next. Not my cup of tea, despite Bradley's success this year. It's just too volatile. We just don't know when that command is going to be there. And if it is there, he's going to succeed. If not, he won't. So it's up to you if you want to flip that coin. Lastly, we've got Kevin Gausman in our nation's capital, 4 2/3 innings, 6 earned, 7 hits, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. This isn't Timberwolves KG or even Celtics KG. This is Nets KG. The amazing Cubs defense is supposed to save Gausman from dealing with ridiculous BABIPs, and that's not what we got here. A 3-run home run ruined his line, but it was getting singled out with 5 singles on his 6 other hits stemming from a 4.62 BABIP that really did him in. What are you going to do? But I think I'm just going to keep starting Gausman, fully aware of his cherry bomb nature. I know that he will pitch better with that Cubs defense behind him. I don't know how he's still running such a high BABIP with baseball's most elite defense backing him up. And looking forward to Friday, my game of the day is Chase Burns versus Sandy Alcantara, and we'll be watching the radar guns light up all game long. But that'll do it for this episode of the Plus Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to not only check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. You can sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to get access to the Discord and get access to a bunch of amazing tools we have on the site. Also on the site, you'll find the article that accompanies this podcast, the SP Roundup. You can follow me on socials at Jake Crumpler, where I do daily SP streamers and I break down every single start via the pitcher list stats player cards. It goes well with the Roundup and the Plus Pitch podcast. You can catch me on the First Pitch podcast, on the In the Pen podcast, and you can find more of my work over at baseballhq.com. But if you want links to all of my work, it's over at crumplerbaseball.com. That'll do it for this episode of the Plus Pitch Podcast. I'll talk to you tomorrow.